No, still not streaming. Okay. Alright, so we'll continue on Twitch. Sorry for everybody on YouTube, but for some reason, the connection is not working to YouTube servers. Maybe you can make an intro invitation to Twitch. Oh, now YouTube is back up. Alright, so YouTube is back up now, and so is Twitch. It just reconnected just a second ago. But those on Twitch, feel free to stay there. I'm not going to change anything. Personally, if we could switch everybody to Twitch, it'd be awesome. I love the platform that they have. It's much more inclusive of people. Yeah, it came back up. I don't know why it went down in the first place. I was looking on my end. It said it was disconnected on Restream's website. So I don't know if something fucked up or what happened. Alright, so what we're going to do is this line right here on the outside corner is the AP to Tigris SWI communication line. And as somebody mentioned earlier, and I was incorrect, I feel like that they're probably right. This is most likely a voltage divider, which is interesting. I didn't think about that. I was thinking it's a data line. It's going to have pull up, pull down resistors, possibly to keep it from floating, but it makes much more sense if it was some type of voltage divider. Although I don't know how exactly that would tell the gas gauge a percentage, but maybe there's a calculation if it's this voltage, this percentage. Not sure. But anyway, a voltage divider does make sense. So a way a voltage divider works is you have a power source. You have a in between. There's going to be a power source here at the top. We're going to do top down. So power source coming into a resistor here goes to the output of the resistor. The output of this resistor will go to a signal line to an IC. The other side of that resistor also will go down to another resistor that's tied directly to ground. So whenever there's a voltage coming through the first resistor, the first and second resistor, their resistance is used to calculate a voltage that will be output between the two. That voltage is usually, if it's an even number, will be half. If the numbers are different, say on like a MacBook, you might have one that's 100K input and then 10K output to ground. You'll get a different voltage on output through the resistors through that voltage divider. You can actually look on Google and look for a voltage divider calculator, and you can enter in your resistance on your input and output resistor, and it will tell you what your in voltage will be. So in this situation, we're using a 2.2K on both input output, so I believe that makes it half. So we're going to need ground for one side of the resistor. So what I'm planning on doing is attaching a resistor to a ground plane somewhere. I don't know if I want to do it here though, because that shield, the shield runs here on all these points too. I may try to catch, since this resistor or this capacitor up here, one of these will be VCC main, which we'll need also. I may just come around here and catch the ground and power directly off of one cap, and that way we kind of cut down a little bit on what we have to do. So let's go ahead and route our wire. We're going to route it around this way, and then we'll clean it up, and we're going to put some conformal coating to kind of hold this wire into place. So I don't want that wire to move, especially when we go to solder our Tigris IC back on, because if the wire moves, we're not going to have a good connection, and then that kind of defeats the whole purpose of what we're doing here. Any other set of tweezers makes this job much easier bending wire. Makes some much tighter bends here. Okay, so I want to go ahead and clean that up and then conformal coat that down. Dinner time? Okay, Chuck. Did you test out the Dogflex test from IP A test battery power dock test. I put a new dock flex on it, if that's what you're asking. I put a new dock flex. I checked the FPC and redid it. I've kind of checked everything that I can think of. Okay, just mixing the alcohol in here to kind of dissolve this flux. Get it out of the way so we can come in and put our coating down so it will actually stick. What line is it? It is AP to Tigris SWI. I'll go ahead and pull it up on our secondary monitor so you all can see the actual line. Oh, you're talking about one of the little Tristar test boards? Is that what you're talking about, Promise? Steve, if it's boot looping, it can cause the phone to become in an error state for restore. The way you tell if that issue is directly related to battery is if you do a update or restore, it'll give you an error. Well, if you try to do an update, it'll give you error 26, and that 26 is usually NAND corruption of like the system file portion where the battery error logs are stored. Well, error logs in general. Yes, Q. I'm at a different location now. This is my new desk. It's same building. My old desk is like right there in front of me. I'm a little further back now. The main window is back over there. Jessa may be excited. I might be able to put a green screen here, and then she'll finally get her wish. Anyway, let's go ahead and put our conformal coating down. As far as the Tristar test boards, I've not really seen any need for it yet. My little amp meter that I use has done a very good job for me as far as telling me when Tristar is not working properly. Whenever I plug in a phone without the battery connected, if Tristar is working properly with this amp meter that I have, the amperage will start to jump up as soon as I plug in that meter. And then if Tristar is not functioning properly, it will do nothing. So I don't know if that board will be specifically helpful for me, since I already have something that kind of does that for me anyway. Like, I don't actually meter anything, but I can tell if Tristar is working without having to replace it to see. There have been times I've been trolled though. Tristar can be functioning, but if Tigris boost circuit's not working, it won't pull any amperage either. What do I think about preheaters? I think preheaters are a good thing depending on what you're doing. If you're pulling CPUs or anything that's got a fairly large mass, it's completely reasonable to use one. Especially things with underfill, it makes it a lot easier. You don't have to put a whole lot of heat to the board to get them off. I think using preheaters for simple things like transferring FPCs and chips that are not underfilled, it's not needed, and you're adding a lot more heat to the board than you necessarily need to. I don't know. They're good and bad. I mean, when I use my big BGA rework, which is right, let me see here, right there. That's my hot air IR fucking BGA rework. It has a preheater IR bed, and I mean, it's definitely needed because you have to get the whole board hot, because you're going to put a shitload of heat right in one spot. But I don't think it's really necessary consistently for most work that we do. CPU stuff definitely, but other than that, I don't know if there's really an overly need for it. Alright, so I'm going to switch you all to the other view. So the line we're jumping right here is this one right there. And that line, if we click it, is AP to Tigris SWI. So that is communication directly from CPU to Tigris about the battery information. iPhone 7 error 3. Well, not restoring iTunes. What's up, Roger? Oh, cheers on the answer. iPhone 7 Plus error 3. Let me look. I bookmarked the thing that 3U Tools put up about all the error codes and how you can kind of tell what they are. My bookmark page has disappeared for some reason. There we go. Show bookmarks. Let's see. Did I not bookmark it? I thought I did. Maybe I didn't. Well, we'll go to 3U Tools. Tools error 3. So if we go to error 3, it kind of gives you an idea. Keeps boot looping and will not restore once it verifies restore. There you go, QTech. Let's see. It says they have a guide for it. Looks like it's not helpful at all. It's saying it's a hardware issue. Sometimes if they complete restore but then they loop, that can be an issue with home button sometimes. The iPhone 7 though normally won't boot without home button. So I don't know, it's kind of hard to say. Alright, so we've got our wire set down here. We've got our conformal coating in place. I'm going to go ahead and tack this wire down a little better, closer to the board. That way we know that... There we go. That way I know it's got a good solid connection. I'm also going to go ahead and trim that up to make sure we don't have any excess front cam. Yep, I need to switch you all back. The microscope camera has been awfully hazy lately. I'm not sure why it's doing that. Alright, so that's good. I don't want to expose that. Let's put our Tigris IC on there now. Steve, the issue that we're having is, so when you plug this device in to a battery, the device will turn on, it'll work perfectly fine, the battery will display a percentage on the screen, but it'll loop every like 60 seconds or so. Like the phone will work for a while and then it'll turn off. And it'll turn back on, it'll work for a while and it'll turn off. And it'll keep doing this over and over. It's not a fast loop. It's not something like Apple screen off, Apple screen off, Apple screen off. It'll do the full boot. It'll get to the home screen. You can enter the passcode. You can do whatever you want on the phone and then it'll shut off. When you hook this up to 3U Tools, I can show you all actually what you're going to be looking for with 3U Tools once we get this back up and running. When you put 3U Tools on the phone, like you plug it in, you pull up 3U. 3U has a battery data line section. If you look at that data line section, it'll usually say no data, and then on the battery percentage, it will probably say 0. When you open up the actual details, it will usually say that there's 0 cycles and that the battery has 100 milliamp storage, and that means that the phone cannot see the battery itself. So when it does that, the phone freaks out because it doesn't know if the battery's overheating, it doesn't know if it's getting too much amperage or too much voltage or whatever. So that data line is very important for the phone to function properly. In this situation, I've replaced Tigris 3 times and we still have no battery information, and I assume that since we still have no battery information, this most likely is a issue with the line that goes from AP to Tigris. Someone fortunately posted on the forums on Facebook and said, hey, this was posted last year. Here's some information on how to fix this issue. It's very rare. Well, supposedly with iOS 11, this issue is not so rare anymore. It's actually been talked about a few times now, but nobody knew about the post from last year except a few people. And that happens. When small items come up, people may see it. And it's always a good idea if you see somebody with a possible solution for an issue that you haven't seen before, just save that and remember it. I personally had not seen it. A few members on the forum said they had seen it before and they knew about the post, but it didn't really come to mind because it's such an oddity to happen. But fortunately, somebody caught it and posted it up. I always thought this was an issue with the AP line because if you test the battery SW line that comes in to Tigris, which is right, where is that? It's one of these lines. That's not it. That's not it. There it is. So that line there is directly from the battery. That's the battery SWI line. That's the data line that comes off the connector on the bottom of the board. It's the two center pins on the battery FPC that goes through the board. It goes to a filter and a capacitor. The filter has 100 ohms resistance. I traced the line from one side of the board to the other. I even ran a jumper from the battery connector to the other side of the board to make sure that it had good connection. My filter tested fine. The line had continuity all the way underneath of the actual chip, so I got continuity to this pin. So replacing Tigris 3 times, I knew that this problem had to be something other than the connection between the battery and the chip. Especially after I rolled out battery, FPC, continuity, filter, any shorts on the line, and the IC itself. So beyond that, the only thing that I ever saw that interested me, which was this line, the AP to Tigris, but I did a diode reading of that line, and a known working board and this board, they meter the same, but something is different on the line. And if you follow this line, it doesn't go anywhere else but directly to the CPU. So if the SoC, I say CPU, but in reality it's the SoC. So if we look at this line here, it goes nowhere else but directly right there. That line goes directly to SoC. So there's nothing in between the two that would cause an issue. So either it's got to be Tigris itself is bad, or something with the CPU is bad. So evidently there is a voltage divider, or maybe it's not a voltage divider, maybe it is some type of pull-up resistor or something. But there's definitely something wrong inside the CPU itself, and this seems to be the solution. So we're going to test that out. It may not fix this one. We may be running our mouth here and it never does a damn thing. So let's go ahead and put the new chip on, if I can remember where I put it. I think this is the old one. Let's see. Maybe the old IC. Well, I'm going to tear it up before I check. That's the old one. Where's my new IC? Are you my new one? Yes, you are. Okay, so here's our new Tigris IC. We're going to flip it over. There we go. Those are my bad tweezers. A little bent up. I'm hoping this much heat around Tristar still being underfilled, I don't end up having an issue. But if I do, we'll replace Tristar also. If this doesn't work, I'm going to replace Tristar anyway, just to see if that's ultimately what was causing it. And if it was, I'll feel like an idiot. But hey, sometimes you learn the best by feeling like an idiot. Because you'll never forget those times where you spend hours and hours and hours trying to figure something out. And then when you finally do, you're like, God, I feel stupid. Come on, Tigers. There you go. Okay, chip is down. Now in place. Our wire should be good. We're gonna let that cool for a second. I don't want to touch it too much while it's hot. That'll come off. I didn't have that on camera. You all were watching nothing. Ta-da! It's fixed. No, not yet. Alright, so next thing we're gonna have to do, let's read back. Error 40, iPhone 6 Plus happens when you take off NAND and upgrade size. Error 40 means that the iPhone cannot see the NAND. So either the NAND is bad or there's not something soldered correctly. That will only happen though if the NAND is not seen. Let's see. Do you know how PPVAR SoC is getting enabled? Jay, I don't know that offhand. Let's see. Which type of phone is that on? PPVAR SoC. I would assume that is most likely something enabled by the CPU, possibly, or it's done in the PMIC. Let's see. PP underscore var underscore SoC. Most likely, yeah, that's going to be something I would think that's going to be coming from PMIC itself. Let's see, var SoC, and let's scroll up. Oh, no, maybe not. Hold on. Is there a filter here I'm missing? There's going to be a filter around. There it is. So, yeah, something with PMIC is going to enable that. There's no other line for that. Now, you can hunt around PMIC and see if there's anything that maybe like an enable line for those, but I would guess that that line is made only if certain conditions are met and PMIC sees something. But I'm pretty sure that's going to be a PMIC problem. Chris, if I get 0.01 amps on the amp meter for a 5S without battery, replace Tristar 3 times, but still the same. Phone boots up, charge normally with the charge battery. Osman, check the battery MOSFET. I bet your battery MOSFET is probably bad, or it's not being controlled properly by PMIC. Just jump the battery MOSFET and see if it'll charge with a dead battery. iPhone 6 draining battery too fast. Replace Tristar battery but still draining fast. Any suggestions? Ventura battery drains are a nightmare. I've got one here that I've been working on. I don't even know where it's drawing the power from, but battery drain is something you kind of have to look for secondary symptoms. So in the past, I've had some battery drain issues where pieces of metal have gotten down inside of FPCs from where you're turning the screws. Some of the thread metal will come out and get inside the FPC. I had one that where the home button was acting weird, like fingerprint scanner wouldn't work for some reason, and I was like, well, why the hell is it doing that? And I pulled the connector off the FPC up by the top where the mounting holes are for the LCD cover plate, and I noticed there was a small piece of metal down inside the FPC, and when I removed that, my battery drain went away and my home button started working properly. So, and it was drawing about 400 milliamps. One of the other ones that we had was a partial short on one of the cameras. The only reason I found that is because we had some heat. And the rear camera wasn't working, I don't think. Or something. No, both cameras weren't working. And there was a little heat up top on the LDO. And we found out one of the cameras had a partial short inside of it, which was causing a low amp power draw. What does PP stand for? Power. Yeah, pretty much PP stands for power. Yeah, promise that's very true. Home button. The best thing to do with voltage short or amp draws and stuff is disconnect everything you don't need. Just have a brand new screen hooked up with a good battery and nothing else, and see what it does. And then start plugging things back in until you find it. The Facebook group admins taking action. Please, bros. Eventually it was going to happen. Alright, so let's not put this off any further. Let's go ahead and put our resistors on. Let me grab a parts board. Alright. So I've got iPhone 6s for days. And the iPhone 6s have 2.2K resistors on some of the I2C lines. So I'm going to go through and find those. And we're going to snag 2 of them. Ventura, just don't get caught up on shorts like that, man. I mean, sometimes after you've kind of exhausted everything, finding a random low amp draw short on a board that's not creating heat is going to be, it'll drive you nuts, because you're going to just have to go through and just hunt and peck until you find that line. Which may not be worth it, depending on the foam. I know, Kenna. Hard times. Alright, so let's see here. Switch your all's view over. I was hoping I would have one of those switchers from Mr. Paul Daniels, but I haven't got one yet. It's 100K. We don't want 100K, we want 2.2K. We might have to pull up an old schematic and just type in 2.2K and see where it is on the board. I know, I know. Those are 20 ohm. That one is 100K. 100K, 100K, 240 ohms, 10K, 10K. That one's 392K. That one's 100K, 100, 1.3, 1.3, 100 or 1K, 1K. Okay, alright, I'm going to pull up a schematic so we can just look real quick. PP stands for Willy Wonka's toy. Oh, maybe. Alright, so let's look here. Schematics. iPhone, iPad, iPhone 6. Alright, so we'll drag this up there. And we're going to search for 2.2K and see what we get. Alright, so it found something. Doesn't show me exactly where. So I'm going to zoom in so it has to be a little more specific. Alright, so these are SOC pull-up resistors. So there's a few of them. So we know we're looking for R0303. So on here we're going to do R0303. Alright, so these are right up top, which is nice. They'll probably be right in this row, all 2.2K. So that's an I2C line with a 2.2K. So these two side by side are both 2.2K. So we can salvage those right there. Let's see if we have those is the question. Yep, we have them. So let me switch you all back over. We're looking for the second and third resistor. So we need the second and the third resistor in this row. So I'm going to clear out a little bit of this underfill first. Okay, there's one resistor. I'm going to go ahead and transfer this over. And I'm going to try to go ahead and stick it down. And we'll go ahead and solder that to this cap, which I believe should be VCC main. Hopefully it is. If it's not, we'll just have to move it. Okay, that side's soldered. Even if that's ground and we're backwards, that's okay. We need one on ground anyway. We'll go ahead and check that. Okay, so this is ground side, which is fine. We need one on ground and we need one on power. So let's grab another one from our other board. This is one that I was practicing pulling SD RAM and practice scraping down the underfill. As you can see, it's very easy to go too far, and it's an absolute nightmare. Scraping that underfill seems like a not very good way about going about that. Seems like it's best to try to get that pool really clean so you can just leave it and reball right on top of it. Alright, so we got our other resistor, and we're going to put that on the other side of this cap, which should be our VCC main side. And we're going to put flux where we don't want it. Alright, I'm going to start by tinning up the side of the cap here. And then we'll see if we can get this resistor to cooperate with us and go into place. Not quite. Might be easier to hit this with hot air. Let's see if I can rotate it around and just heat it up with hot air and move it into place. Upside down is fine. Resistor works both ways. Dan, yeah, that's the one that I'm still trying to figure out. I can't seem to find what's causing the short. I've tested it with everything disconnected. The only thing that I could tell is when I did turn off cellular data, the amp draw on my meter, on my DC power supply would go away. But that doesn't really help me since cellular goes to a lot of stuff. And VCC main looks normal. BAT VCC looks normal as far as their diode readings go. So it's not something pulling directly on the line. It's got to be a secondary system, which makes it an absolute nightmare to try to find. Okay, so we're soldered to that resistor. And now we're going to solder to our VCC main side resistor. Alright, there we go. So that should have, I'm going to check and make sure it's VCC main, but I'm pretty sure it is. I hope it's not BAT VCC. That would kind of suck. But we'll check right now. Osmond, yeah, you need to bridge the BAT VCC and the VCC main. that are under the battery MOSFET. There's a battery MOSFET that's controlled by the PMIC on the 5S. On the 6 series, it's this IC here. On the iPhone 5 series, there's one that looks similar to this, but it's black, I believe. It may be silver also. On the 6 series, Tristar controls this gate. On the 5 series, the PMIC controls that gate. You can bypass that gate altogether. Flip it around or the electrons will get dizzy. I'm going to hope that they'll make it fine. I don't think they'll care too much. Resistor works good upside down or not. Don't want all the resistance falling out. Alright, so yeah, that is VCC main, and that is ground. So now, moment of truth. Did this actually do anything for us? Or did it just waste our time, and did I do a stream to look like an idiot? The stream like an idiot one is not uncommon, so don't be surprised. I will, on a secondary note, the iPhone 7 boot looping issue is becoming more prominent. We're seeing quite a few more with either boot looping or lag issues from the audio IC or baseband PMIC. So if you all have some that come in where they loop and they give you error 4013, there's a possibility that that's going to be baseband PMIC. If they come in and they are slow booting, or they loop sometimes and you have no microphone or audio issues, that's most likely going to be your audio IC, so you can check that out too. I don't know why I'm hooking all this up, but it's just habit. I still have to take it back out and hook this antenna up, but whatever. So hopefully this battery is charged. I don't know if I drained it all the way down or not, but we'll see here in a second. We'll see if our voltage divider resistors have done anything. Let's see, are you dead? You look like you're dead. You sure act like you're dead. So let's plug up our charger here. Yeah, it's dead, so we're gonna let it charge some here. It's pulling 1 amp, which we didn't have problems with charging before. It charged perfectly fine. The problem was once it turned on, it wouldn't stay on. No problem, Osmond. See if that works. Pop a dead battery in it and see if it'll charge it while it's off. If you've replaced Tristar and you know Tristar's good, that's the only other thing I can think of. Maybe your dock flex too. Make sure your dock flex is good. Also make sure your dead battery is okay. If the battery is bad, it will not charge if it's dead because it'll throw some weird errors for the phone. What's up, Aaron? So we're going to let this iPhone 6 Plus charge for a little bit. It shouldn't take terribly long. I don't think this battery was that dead. I think it was sitting around like 1% when I was testing it. Gucci gang, Gucci gang, Gucci gang, Gucci gang. I'm hoping to stream some more though. I have missed like streaming stuff. It's just been like by the time I leave here it's like 9 o'clock. I really don't feel like streaming after that. Sorry. While that's charging, I'm gonna go turn my sign off and lock my door. Be right back. Live free, Kenna. You're your own dog. Am I still doing iPad unlocks? Yeah, we do some. Really, I mean, it hasn't been many of them. Honestly, I don't know if it's cost effective for most people to do them anyway. Especially with iOS 11, it makes it harder. I know people are now selling good serial number, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi shit. I still haven't found out if they have a generator or if they're just taking good serial number combos from other iPads. Yeah, I have been thinking about doing classes soon. Really, legitimately, the only thing that's holding me back on doing classes is just ordering microscopes. I'm waiting for the Franklin store to kind of take off before I spend a couple $1,000s on microscope equipment. The Franklin store has been slow, which we expected it to be slow. First month it did a couple $1,000s, which isn't very much, but the city that we're in is fairly small, so it's taken a little time to get our name out there. But it is growing. We now have AT&T, T-Mobile, and Bluegrass, which is the local Verizon variant, are all sending us stuff now. You bet half the iPads on eBay for sale are now locked. Oh, so it's just cloning only now? Understandable. iPhone 6 Plus -1 on iTunes. Reball baseband adding micro jumpers on the 2 common fall paths. Hopefully works. -1 can be a baseband issue, or it can be a baseband PMIC issue. Check your lines that feed baseband for shorts. That'll usually be what's causing that -1. If baseband itself is dead, you're pretty much shit out of luck. You have to reprogram a new baseband with the old information. The thing about Samsung not booting after a shutdown out of the blue, even after Odin restored, nothing. Any idea? Thanks, bro. So it will do an Odin restore deep music? No image. Charge boots get detected. The only thing is missing GPU. Is PMIC replacement a separate? Could be a data line. I would check to make sure that your chestnut enable lines are there first. You got to think of it this way: if there's no power, if there's no enable signal coming from the LCD connector to tell chestnut to turn on, then GPU probably won't have any power. So I would think you probably need a chestnut enable line first, and then after chestnut is enabled, it probably talks to the okay, so they're all fine. Check your I2C data lines. Make sure they're okay. Is your GPU line diode reading different than like a working unit? And was there any liquid damage or anything? It did, but even after it didn't boot, not even showing the charging battery. Deep music. What Samsung is that? Do you know if the OLED panel is working? Does Odin show up on the panel? Like when you put it in the download mode? S4? Huh. I don't know. That's weird. So, does it shows Odin mode on the screen though, like the download mode? Whenever you put it into download mode? Why are you no on yet, phone? Charge up. I'm about to go grab a battery and just say fuck it. A Dell laptop expert? I don't know if you're gonna find an expert on Dells. Unless it's like business class shit. UDID is generated by serial number, MAC address, Bluetooth. Yeah, I knew that for iOS 11. The serials that are selling is generated by fake serial number with a real or clone from another iPhone or iPad. Same model, same version. Yeah, Ventura, I figured that's what they were doing, is they were cloning the same serial number and MAC address, Bluetooth address. And the problem is, though, is if anybody assigns an iCloud to that serial number, it's going to iCloud lock every single one of those if they do a restore, won't it? I would think it would, because that's how the iPads are identified on Apple's servers. So if anybody put an iCloud on any of those iPads with the same serial number that's been cloned, it's going to lock all of them if they do a restore. iPhone SE, no network. IMEI's present. We're just... How would you start searching for the issue? No police were answering. I'm trying to find. Dino, when you go into the dialer and dial *#06#, does it give you an IMEI? If this thing doesn't turn on in the next minute, I'm gonna go grab a battery. It's still pulling an amp, it's still charging, but ain't turned on yet. I think the battery is that dead. I don't know, Deep. That's really hard to tell why it wouldn't be booting. Especially why it wouldn't even show the charging icon. Does it vibrate or anything when you press the power button? Doesn't do anything. So when you dial *#06#, Dino, it doesn't show an IMEI? Okay. So if you're not getting an IMEI number when you dial *#06#, most likely you have an issue underneath of your baseband. The baseband chip has a connection to a RF data line, and on the iPhone 6 it's very common. I haven't seen it on the iPhone 5 SE. I would first try doing a reset of the network settings just to make sure it's not some weird software glitch. Always better to roll out easy stuff first. But the line that normally fails, I'll pull it up here. This line on the iPhone 6 series fails on the baseband, and the line is RFFE1 data line. And that line, if you go over here to the other side of the board, actually it's on this side where the antennas are. This line talks to every single antenna IC, and even the proportioning IC that does like the balancing. If that line is down, you'll get searching no service, even with an IMEI and firmware, modem firmware. Have you seen many of these weird gas gauge issues with the 6S? I have one I figured out. Moves around when you plug in charger. Oh, Aaron, you're saying like the voltage or the percentage goes up and down? I've seen some that do that, and normally that's an issue with either the battery or Tigris. Okay, the phone finally booted up. We're at 2% is what it says. And now I'm going to try to transfer this to my computer without it dying, because that's how it always is. Okay, it says it's charging. We'll find out real quick if this phone reboots. We know it's not fixed. Alright, so 3U tools. We'll close iTunes there. Alright, so here we go. There it is. It worked. So before, this right here on the charge time said 0. It would not show me how many charge cycles the battery had. And then under actual capacity, it would say 100 milliamps. And the phone would reboot itself. So after putting those two resistors, we now have a charge cycle count, and we also have our actual capacity of the battery. So this seems to fix the issue. It's really crazy that something internal to the CPU it's really odd. I guess there's some type of internal voltage divider that the CPU has that fails and causes these symptoms. So everybody add that to the memory bank. If you've checked everything else, if you've checked Tigris, if you checked the battery FPC, if you've checked the battery, and you're still not getting any type of data output over here on 3U tools, like it says 0 charge times, battery life, no data. Yeah, 90% is pretty good. We had one come in today that had 81% battery life left with only 100 charge cycles. It's pretty nuts. I never opened OEM 6S. Like, the lady hardly uses it all. She uses it for phone calls. It had 100 and something charge cycles on it. It was already down to 80%. But, so pretty good. Battery life's decent. This phone now was brought in originally for a Touch IC, which we can now see. Touch IC works. If I can get around this big giant spot in the center. So we have touch, and we now have battery. So that was the key thing for here. I was a little concerned as to why this one stopped working after I did Touch IC. I thought maybe I had fucked up something, but based on the location of that data line coming from BAT SWI to the AP to Tigris SWI, if you look at the orientation, we'll try to line these up to where they're even. So this gives you an idea of the orientation here. This brake line is the same across both sides. That SWI line is down here somewhere, and the chip we're messing with is up here, which is actually in this area on the other side of the board. So I don't think it had anything to do with what I did, but just coincidence that it happened. But glad it's working now. We can finally get paid for this Touch IC I've had for a week. So in recap, if you test everything, 2.2K resistors, 2 of them, one on the power side, one on the ground side of the cap that is next to Tigris, which is right here. There's your VCC main, there's your ground. Just put a resistor here, run a wire connected to both around and connected to your AP to Tigris SWI line, and bingo bango, it works. Awesome. But anyway, I'm gonna go home. It is 7:40 and I've been closed for 40 minutes, and that was an hour and a half long stream. I'm sure people won't want to watch all hour and a half of it. They'll probably skip to the end. I don't blame them. But thank you all for watching. As always, like, it's pretty cool that we had almost 40 people in here again, just starting up a stream. I promise to try to stream some more. We've definitely got some MacBooks that I'm probably going to do on stream. They're liquid damage stuff, and I'll try to be back on more. That way it's not so boring, and hopefully, if we're lucky, we'll get a green screen back here and do some like weird shit like Jessa does. Anthony, I'm glad you're here to annoy me. And I'll try to get everybody's stuff out. I know some people have been waiting a while. I'm trying to get things done that are quick and simple as fast as I can. The other things that are time consuming is just it takes time to try to figure these things out. I know I try to get things out within 1 to 3 days, but some of these items are just they're really time consuming things. And it just takes a lot of work. I worked on a Touch IC phone the other day for 2 hours that we finally got touch back on. It was just an absolute nightmare. The FPC was destroyed. The Touch ICs didn't work. Mason and Cumulus are both fucked up because somebody tried to fix them themselves. So it was really a nightmare. So some of these things I wish they were really quick. I wish I could pop them out like instantly and just get them sent out, but sometimes it's just not that way. But I definitely will try to get back on here as much as I can. Anthony, I'll look forward to your phone call. But anyway, you all have a good night, and I'm going to head home. Thanks for joining me, and see y'all later.